Hey everybody, it's Jason Creel, and you are live. Well, I'm live on Lawn Care Life. You may be watching live or watching on replay. Either way, appreciate you tuning in to the Lawn Care Life YouTube channel. It is April the 12th, 2022 at 6:30 Central Time, which is my time, and decided to hop on here. Usually this time of year, things are starting to happen. Lawn care people come out of hibernation, at least in my area. You might not see that many trucks pulling a trailer and a lawnmower, and all of a sudden they're everywhere. It's getting that time here, and I know again, depending on where you live, times may be a little different, but it's getting close if you're in the United States, and a lot of people, cool season grasses too, are out doing some stuff. For me, I have I tweaked my schedule. I've talked about this a little bit on my YouTube channel. I was spraying a pre-emergent, pre and post-emergent round one. So that was like January into early February. Then round two, I did like basically March into early April, but I actually got done for April. But that was a slow release fertilizer. So I put that out, and this on my Bermuda Zoysia lawns. And I'm kind of got a little lull in my schedule, even though it's a busy time of year for lawn care. The way I tweaked my schedule, I've already got some fertilizer, and I'm waiting until early May, to start spraying Spectacle on my lawns, and I'll come back and fertilize again. So that's kind of what I'm doing. So I got a little downtime. In that downtime, I started a separate YouTube channel. It's been a slow go so far. I forgot how hard it is to start on YouTube. This channel is about 11 years old. My new channel is called Fix a Lawn, Fix-A-Lawn. And I'm doing, trying to get into the extreme mowing, like these guys are doing all the mowing tall grass and getting millions of views. It's been a slow go for me, so appreciate your support on that channel. If you want to check it out and subscribe, that would be helpful to me. I started about 2 weeks ago. I've got 400 and some subscribers, but it's going to take a while to get going. But I think about even on that channel, doing, when I say Fix a Lawn, I named it that, where I could be a little broad. I might go in there and do some weed control stuff. So if you got a yard that's just full of weeds, and go fix it from the sense of weed control and not just mowing tall grass and that sort of thing. So anyway, that's me. And today, the things I'm doing this time of year, I put out some fire ant bait at my own house. So it's, ants are going everywhere. There's grass is turning green. So people are scalping their Bermuda lawns in our area. It won't be long. I'll be fertilizing my trees and shrubs and try to get them going. So those are kind of things going on in the lawn right now. I'm getting some phone calls, a lot of phone calls for mowing, which I'm just passing on to other people, and some weed control and fertilization calls as well. All right, let's see if we can jump into some questions here. Jason, I have a Centipede lawn in Mobile, Alabama. It appears to have some leftover brick mason sand was spread throughout the front yard. Now, I'm no brick mason expert, but so I would be interested to know what the difference is of brick mason sand versus like people go buy sand to level out their lawn and stuff. I did 2 separate soil tests, one for the backyard, healthy and somewhat thick, 5.8 pH, front lawn 7.8 pH, ugly, thin, barely grows. My question is, what can I do to reduce the front lawn pH quickly? Somebody help me out here. I forget. I'm actually going to ask you. I forget what it is that you what to apply on a lawn to reduce pH. Sorry, I'm just going to go here. Sulfur. That's what it says, so because I've heard that, like, in the case, that's what I was thinking about. I've heard that in case of like hydrangeas and stuff. If you want them to be pink or blue or all that, you can add that. So I don't know. You might have to research that a little bit more. If somebody else is watching this can chime in as well and ever try that, because most of the lawns in our area are acidic. But my other question is, and somebody might can chime in on this, my gut feeling, without knowing your situation, is that it may not be the pH, may not be the main problem. So, because I'm not sure that a 7.0 pH is terrible. That's not. I'm just thinking off the top of my head that's not probably not the only thing going on with your lawn, and that may actually have very little to do with what is going on in the lawn. I don't know that. I'm just sort of speculating. So don't necessarily assume that if you bring your pH down to 5.8 like it is on the backyard, it's going to fix your problems. It may have something else going on there. Let's see, but it doesn't have calcium in it, as my soil test showed, extremely high calcium as well. Okay. Well, I'm going to see if somebody else can chime in and help you on that, Danny. Sorry, I'm not. But again, I'm not sure 7.08 is terribly high that would be causing any problems. MMMB. Okay. Not sure about that one. Jason, can I spray Celsius on Zoysia during spring green up? Is it also okay to add in some liquid fertilizer to the Celsius when I spray Zenith Zoysia in Virginia? Yeah, I think you can. I mean, you possibly might delay the green up a little bit, but adding in some liquid fertilizer, if it's, I wouldn't just throw the liquid fertilizer in there if it's still 50 degrees. Make sure that you're getting on up in the 70s and then starting to turn green and get a little bit, or you may be wasting a lot of your liquid fertilizer. And then I guess my other question would be, is it necessary to go in there and spray the whole yard with Celsius? I don't know how many weeds it's covered up with. It's got a lot of POA on it. You might just consider letting that POA die out and just spot treat other broadleaf weeds and grassy weeds instead of blanketing the whole yard. That's just my thought, even from a cost standpoint. But yeah, you can. I feel confident you can do both of those things. Again, worst case scenario, you might delay the green up a little bit. Brandon, I appreciate you. I'm starting this year. You helped me a lot. All right, no problem, Brandon. Glad the videos are helpful to you. Jason, I'm looking to make some mulch beds around my house this year. Do you think glyphosate would be a good chemical kill off everything there, or would you advise something else? That's what I use. Follow the label and wear your PPE and all that with any herbicide, not just glyphosate. And if you've got, let me say this, if you got like some Bermuda grass, and I don't know where you live, and that's a note, if you want to chime in where you live and things like that, what kind of grass, that's helpful. But like I was talking to somebody the other day, and they had some Zoysia that was kind of creeping over in their flower beds. Well, the Zoysia was about half dormant. And I told him, I said, I can't guarantee spraying that with glyphosate is going to kill it. And same thing if you got some Bermuda that's still 50% green, 50% dormant. I mean, it may damage it, but I'm not sure it's going to kill it. So you might, if it's some like grasses like Bermuda and Zoysia, you might wait till it warms up a little bit. But if it's a bunch of just broadleaf weeds that are green and growing like crazy, I would think it would be great on those. A warmer day, when you get 2 or 3 warm days in a row, will probably be more effective than a colder day. How do you get rid of moss in the lawn? All right, I was reading something about this the other day in a magazine. It was talking about moss and algae, and I get asked that a lot. And the magazine kind of confirmed what I had thought and been taught. The magazine said basically the moss is growing where the grass does not want to grow. So I think there's some kind of stuff you can buy on Amazon that says it'll get rid of the moss. But again, the reason the moss is there is because it's not a good environment for grass to grow. So you might need to look at it as like, what could I do to make, because you just kill the grass. I mean, what are you going to have, just dirt, or so I would rather have moss than just dirt if it was up to me. But you might look at it and say, is there some tree limbs I can cut back to get some more sunlight in here? Is there a different kind of grass, like in our area? If somebody had some Bermuda grass and it was real thin and you got moisture in the area, it might end up growing moss and things like that. If it's kind of shady, and they might get rid of the moss, scrape it out or something, put some Zoysia down. If it had enough sunlight for the Zoysia to grow, it may not have enough sunlight for either. But anyway, I think the moss is kind of an indicator that you got some moisture issues maybe, and also shade issues. So yeah, I'm sure you can find on Amazon something that'll kill the moss, but it may not solve all your problems. You talked before how Zoysia is slow to establish after sodding. It would grow fine, but not completely rooted. laid Xeon Zoysia in June. Still looks like that in places. How long does that take to go away? I'm just basing this on my own experience, Mike. I put some Zorro. I've got Zorro Zoysia under some crepe myrtle trees, and I put that out not last year, but maybe the year before. I don't remember. I think I did it kind of like late summer the year before, and it was, I think it's like you're saying. Maybe I wasn't putting it out in June. Maybe I put it out in August or something. I can't remember exactly, but it was. I felt like the following spring, about this time the next year, I thought, I'm not so sure I couldn't reach down and just pull up a piece of that side. Now it had some roots, but it wasn't great rooting by any means. I think some of that's going to depend on the conditions and things like that. I mean, I just put some Zoysia down about a month ago, Emerald Zoysia in another spot, and I reached down and grabbed it that I've got. So I put Bermuda and Zoysia out at the same time. The Bermuda's pretty much stuck to the ground. Now, some of that has to do with it was sort of muddy, and I just squished it down in the mud and all that. But the Zoysia, I went over there the other day, and of course, it's only been a month, and it's not stuck to the ground at all. So I figure I'm just going to have to water it like crazy to get through this first summer. And, I don't know. But as you're finding out, Mike, it's slow, very slow. But I would expect this summer, if you laid it down last summer, I would think, this summer it would look like a yard again. All right. What granular pre-emergent you like best, commercial grade? I mean, you can get, I don't use a lot of granular pre-emergent. I had some the other day that's been sitting around here for a long time. I gave it to a friend of mine, and it was like a 007 with prodiamine. You can get a 007 with dimension, things like that. So it depends. We use prodiamine, whatever form you're using it in. We put that out before crabgrass germinates. So if your crabgrass is already germinated, then you might want to go with the dimension product. If it hasn't germinated yet, which in our area in Alabama, it's already germinated, usually sometime in March. And so we use a prodiamine before it germinates, and you might go with dimension after it germinates. So I would say the timing is going to matter which one you're going to use. Hey, Jason, Bermuda lawn, Oklahoma, using prodiamine for pre-emergent doesn't seem to work well to prevent POA and hairy bittercress. Spectacle is expensive. Any thoughts? Yeah, I do have some thoughts. Actually, giving that a lot of thought because I use the Spectacle for my business, but it wasn't something I didn't think about because you're right. It's expensive. It costs more. Now, when you say it's expensive, you're right. If you go buy a little bottle, and I don't know what it is, $250 or $300 or whatever, that little bottle. And we use 6, I think it comes in an 18-ounce bottle for the small one. I buy the gallon jugs. But for me, my cost is like $3 and something per 1,000 square feet. Now, let's say yours might be $5 per 1,000 square feet. I don't know. But, even if it was $5 per 1,000 square feet, and you had a 10,000 square foot lawn, that's $50, So that's not terrible because you're using it at 6 ounces. What I do is 6.5 ounces per acre in the fall. And then I'm coming back this year and doing 6 ounces in May to try to help with a lot of the summer weeds. So yeah, that's significantly more expensive than prodiamine, but like you're finding out, the prodiamine on a very thick, healthy lawn, you might not have a POA problem or hairy bittercress or things like that. But I definitely think you'll see a much improved situation with the Spectacle. Now, other options. Let's say you're going to use prodiamine, okay, you say I just want to go cheaper. You might, on a Bermuda lawn in Oklahoma, I'm just telling you some options here. You might go in there in January and spray it with 32 ounces per acre of glyphosate. And that kind of, the idea there is I've got POA, I've got hairy bittercress, I've got whatever, and I'm just wiping it out. And I do that on my lawn with virtually no delayed green up or anything. I mean, I did that on my yard this year, and it's turning green just like everybody else is turning green. Mine might actually be greener than others because I scalped it a little bit earlier and things like that. So that's one option that you might do. You could go with a product like Revolver and spray that as a post-emergent, like in January. That's also not a cheap product. Or you could use something like Negate, which is significantly cheaper. You can buy a bottle for like 50-something bucks, and it covers an acre. So if you want to just go with prodiamine as your pre-emergent and say I'm gonna go after it in January with a post-emergent, and before it becomes real visible in the lawn, you could try that as opposed to Spectacle. But for me, I just went the Spectacle route, and that's how I've approached it. Good question. All right, Margaret, Odenville, Alabama, in the house. That is right down the road from me, so I'm very familiar with Margaret in Odenville. Thanks, Brian, for watching. Sulfur lowers pH. Yes, if it's new construction, that is the lime leaking out of the new concrete. Okay, good thought there. So Mike is saying, helping me out on the question earlier about Danny was saying he built a new, I'm assuming fairly new house here, and his yard had a higher pH on the front yard. So yeah, he's confirming the idea of using sulfur there. Yeah, I'm not. It may be a yard is kind of like Mike was saying. His Zoysia is not established. Maybe your Centipede's not. Well, maybe this year it's going to bounce back a little bit, and you try to put some nutrients on the lawn and not just concerned about the pH. But if somebody else want to chime in and say, hey. Okay, Dan, he's saying here, Centipede doesn't like pH above 6 from my research. Okay, well, that may be true. So you might want to get it down, see if that makes it bounce back, and that could be your main problem. I really don't know, but it sounds like you need to find some kind of sulfur product to help lower the pH. Mike, what you are probably right. All right. And he says, I'm not an expert, saw an article how high pH is a new problem in lawn care with all the new construction. All right. Interesting. I never thought about that. It makes sense. Centipede doesn't like pH from above 6. All right. Good evening. Quick question. I'm in the burbs of Chicago. Now, I went to Chicago a few years ago, and I forget the name of the suburb we visited, but we had a good experience. We finally got some soil temperatures up in the 50s and warm temps coming this week. Should I wait to fertilize, or you think it's okay to throw down? I'm no cool season grass expert, but I'm just basing on what we've got going here. It's like people overseed their Bermuda grass with ryegrass, and so my ryegrass, I've got some in my backyard, and I don't know. When it starts getting warm, it takes off, so I don't know if your air temperatures are in the 70s maybe, but when I was in Chicago, we were there in early May, and somebody told me that we had beautiful weather, but somebody told me we were very fortunate because oftentimes that time of year it can still be really cold. Again, you're dealing with cool season grasses, not warm season grasses. So I would look at the forecast and see, is it going to be consistently in the 60s, 70s moving forward, or are we about to drop back down in the 40s? And that I would let that kind of answer my question. If you feel like you're going to be consistently warmer weather, then I think that your cool season grass is about to take off and go nuts, like it does, need mowed about every 4 days, seems like. Or if it's still going to be cool, I would hold off a little bit. Look at this, guys. Ain't no secret lawns and how to. I like his little thumbnail picture over there. He's got a beautiful striped lawn. I'm trying to establish a wildlife food plot here in coastal North Carolina. What's the best option to fertilize to add some nutritional value to the soil for 3 to 5 acres? Also a septic leach field. Ooh. I don't know if I'm going to be able to help you with that one. Somebody have some thoughts on that. I'm trying to establish a wildlife food plot here in coastal North Carolina. What's the best option to fertilize to add some nutritional value to the soil for 3 to 5 acres? That's going to be a little bit of a pricey pricey situation. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not familiar with the septic leach field, but it sounds like you're trying to take a bad area and figure out how to make something useful out of it. I wouldn't be the one to answer that. I'm sorry. Thanks, Jason. You know any herbicides to treat nimbleweed in Zoysia? No, I don't. I've just heard glyphosate, but I like to avoid that. Yeah, sometimes. I mean, yeah, glyphosate is not really labeled for dormant Zoysia, so use it at your own discretion. But some of those weeds are just hard to get rid of, and it's very difficult on some of them. I'm in Atlanta. Ken says I'm in Atlanta, being prevented crabgrass with prodiamine this past winter. Now I have large patches of dirt in my Centipede lawn. How do I fill it in? Seed and when? You can buy some. If you're in Atlanta, you could go ahead and get some sod if you wanted a fast way to do it, or you could plug it. I've got this little thing called a Pro Plugger. You can get one for about $40 or $50 on Amazon, and you can take a plug out of your existing lawn and plug it into the new part, and it'll fill in. Or you could just put some like loose topsoil and stuff in there and let it fill in on its own over the summer. Or if you're going to seed it, honestly, that would probably wouldn't be my first choice. But if you wanted to seed it, you could again get some loose soil or loosen up the soil, and probably need to wait until it gets pretty hot and then figure out a way to keep it watered. So I would say at least May. You're in Atlanta area, 85 degrees or hotter probably is what I've been told. I think when you're growing warm season grasses from seed. Mobile, Alabama, St. Augustine centipede grass, issues with dollarweed and burrweed. Can I use change up in summer and atrazine in winter? Yes, you can use change up in the summer and atrazine in winter. Sometimes we'll put like 8 ounces of change up per acre, and we'll mix it with 1/4 of an ounce or 1/3 of an ounce of metsulfuron, which is under the label name Manor or MSM Turf, and I'm sure other products as well. But you mix those two together, and you can get a lot of tough weeds out of centipede and St. Augustine grass. Atrazine, I do like 20 ounces per acre in January. Gary says, I threw down pre-emergent but skipped a couple of spots so I can spot seed those areas. Again, so tips in the 50s, should I wait before I spot seed? Is Gary the one in Chicago? Let's see here. Yeah, Chicago. I got a friend up there. What's his? I think you probably should do it sooner than later. If the soil's not freezing weather's past, and I think again, from my understanding, with cool season grass, people normally do it in the fall, but you could come back now and hopefully get a little bit more germination in the springtime. So I would think now would be fine with that. And I think you did a good thing by skipping the pre-emergent in those bare areas. You might could loosen up the soil a little bit and hopefully get it to establish itself. And my understanding is you're trying to get it to establish itself and be healthy enough to survive the hot summer coming up. So I think the clock's ticking on you a little bit to get it established and healthy enough so that it don't get zapped this summer. I leveled the topsoil that was full of crabgrass. I put down starter fertilizer with weed preventer. Will that suppress the crabgrass, or I'll need to hit it with quinchloric after a couple of mows? Let me see here. Well, it seemed like this is a follow-up to something else that was said earlier. Maybe not. It seemed like that was his first comment. I was trying to see if that was something he is following up on a comment he had made earlier. All right, I leveled with topsoil that was full of crabgrass. So he's saying his topsoil was full of crabgrass. I put down starter fertilizer with weed preventer. Will that suppress the crabgrass? I guess it depends. My question would be, did your weed preventer, was it a pre-emergent that's going to be effective on crabgrass? And did you get it down and watered in before the crabgrass germinated? So again, I'm just using my situation as an example. If I put some topsoil, had crabgrass all in it from old crabgrass seeds from last year, and I did that in February, and I put out some prodiamine in February, then I'm hoping the prodiamine is going to work and keep kill that baby crab, kill the crabgrass when it germinates so that you don't have a problem. But let's say I did that in March and the crabgrass had already germinated. Well, then you're too late, So I think in that situation, you're going to have to just watch it and see, is there any crabgrass that's popping up? And you can actually see little tiny crabgrass in our area. Probably could see it now. If I went to a yard that had tons of crabgrass in it last year, I can get down on my hands and knees and look on there and I can see the tiny crabgrass now. So you should be able to see the baby crabgrass plant soon. And again, my question is, when did you do all this? Was it before the crabgrass germinated or after? Lower coastal Delaware, cool season tall fescue, refurbished last fall with a nice overseed. Did not use a pre-emergent. As a result, this spring, 15% is POA. How do I target the weed and when? I tell you, I read people. I'm in this Facebook group, and all these cool season people get on there, and they're like, "How do I get rid of POA in the cool season line?" I think there is a product out there. I don't know what it is. Okay. But in my experience, like we have, my kids play soccer at a local soccer field, and they overseed it with cool season grasses in the winter. And I walk out there and there's POA all in it, but it's not that noticeable because it's just it looks like I can see the seed head and stuff, but it's not nearly as noticeable as it is in our warm season grasses. So if it's 15% POA, I still don't know if I'm going to go in there and bombard it with something. I might still just let it die, start mowing it, and let it die out when it gets hot. And I don't know. It's tough because if you try, I've also heard, some strategy in the fall about when to, can you put your seed out and get it established, and then put your pre-emergent out after the seed's established, so that it doesn't affect the root, the rooting of your new grass seed, but hopefully get ahead of some of the POA. So it's tough for you cool season guys, because almost every product we got that kills POA will kill your grass too. We use products all the time in the South that'll kill POA, but not so good for cool season grasses. What do you suggest for killing weeds and keeping them dead in central Alabama? Jerry, you had to be a little more specific. Are you trying to kill weeds out of your crack of your driveway? And like if I'm doing that, flower beds, gravel driveways, things like that, I put glyphosate mixed with a product called SureGuard, which is an expensive product, but it keeps stuff out for a long time. But now if you're talking about in the yard, it's kind of a broad question with a lot of different answers. So maybe you can specify what product are. I think he's going to clarify that. Ammonium sulfate will lower the pH. There we go. And I have, and maybe that makes sense now, because I've been told, some of the fertilizers we use will lower pH over time because of, maybe because they have some products like some ingredients like that in them. What cheaper product for glyphosate Roundup ranks your prices through the roof? Yeah, they're expensive right now. Glyphosate doubled or tripled in cost last year, almost overnight. So I don't have a cheaper option for you, unfortunately. I'm in Michigan. It's perfect to throw down. All right, maybe he's Brett is helping out the other guy in Chicago. Thanks. Brett says we started this week. Appreciate that, Brett. Again, I'm in the warm season grasses, so I don't deal much with cool season grasses. Jamarcus says I started my lawn business. Looks like as if I'm head in the hole now with maintenance on my mower. What else should I do to get more clientele? The things I have done that's been successful, and social media presence definitely helps. And I include YouTube with that, as well as Facebook, Instagram, things like that. But then reaching out to people on Facebook. So I might go on Facebook and I'll go to a local group and for my town or neighborhood, and I'll search for the keyword lawn, and I'll find all these people that have a lawn business. So if somebody says, hey, I need somebody to mow my lawn, well, I'll look on there and find all these people that get recommended. I'll start calling on them. I say, hey, I'm Jason, and I own a weed control and fertilization company. Do you have anybody you're recommending for your weed control and fertilization customers too. They're mowing grass and they get asked all the time, and I want them to send them to me. Well, vice versa. If I was a mowing person, I would want to get to know the weed control people so they could send you business. But I think, long-term, a website and all that is very effective. Short-term social media is probably better. I think the other thing you do is just being out there on a warm Saturday in the spring. If you've got some work to do, being out there on a beautiful Saturday working. Sometimes the neighbors will come out. They see you working there. And you can, even if it's allowed, knock on the doors to the neighbors. Say, hey, I'm mowing so-and-so's grass right here. Would you like a quote on your yard? So those are some things that might be able to help you. Could you go over your CRN program? I'm in Little Rock, Arkansas, and can't find a product that lasts all season. I believe you say you're applying fertilizer one time a year. I'm not applying fertilizer one time a year. I'm applying twice a year. But a friend of mine is applying once a year. I buy from Harold's, and they have this fertilizer called Polyon. It's a polymer coated fertilizer, and depending on how thick you put the polymer coating on has something to do with how long it's going to last, and also has something to do with the price of it. So for me this year, I got a one with a little bit thinner coat that I put out in March, and then I'll come back with one with a thicker coat in June. And that's going to hopefully get me through the rest of the year. So it's like a 3808 blend the first round in March. Then I'm doing spectral flow, then come back with a 3807 blend in June that's supposed to feed it for the rest of the growing season. Again, they have something I could have put out in March and would have lasted me the whole year. It would have been a more expensive bag, but I would only have the pros of that is only have spread fertilizer one time. So it's kind of just different approaches to different strategies of what you're trying to do. Emmanuel, what grass type do you recommend for transition 10B for our front yard with a mix of shade and sun? I wouldn't know, Emmanuel. I'm sorry. I'm in 7A where we're not in a transition zone, and I'm most experienced with what I'm dealing with. Hey, Jason, glad to catch you on a live. How busy is the spring compared to last spring for you in Alabama with new customers? I'm in South Texas, and the spring rush has hit pretty good already. Caleb, I don't really track it that close, to be honest with you. I'm not in an aggressive growth mode, but I'm gonna say I probably got a little bit less customers. It seemed like 2020 when we had the worst COVID lockdown thing, that was like a booming year for me. But I started downsizing my business and trying to keep it at a manageable level where I can just operate solo. So like when I get a lot of calls, I mean, I don't know how many calls I had today, but it's, people are calling basically every day, but I'm just very selective on which ones I take on. I get a lot of calls from Mo and things like that, but I'm looking for a weed control customer that lives like in the neighborhood I'm already established in right down the road. And if they're not that, then I just pass them on. So, I might have picked up 30 customers this year maybe, but I'll be honest, I'm not trying too hard, and I'm just being very selective on which ones I take on. What's the best way to get rid of bendy weed, or maybe I'm saying that right? I wouldn't know that either, Emmanuel. You're in a different area than me. You got different grass, different weeds. I'm sorry. If somebody else can chime in, that would be great. When can I apply Atrazine if a recent weed and feed on Centipede grass? I don't know where you are. You have to read the label on Atrazine. I think you can, I know on our Bermuda lawns, once it starts turning green, you take the Atrazine out. On the Centipede grass, I think if it's transitioning, you're probably still okay. Once it turns green, we usually switch over and start using Change Up for that. Ain't no secret lawn care and how to says my thoughts were just pick up as many as 50% of the busted bags of fertilizer from Lowe's, whatever they had, mix them together. Okay, so he was he's got like 3 to 5 acres, something like that. And he's wanting to add some nutrients to the soil and make it something special, wildflowers, wildlife. And so he's it's probably the way to do it, man. Just go see what you can get cheap. So I wonder, Lowe's might, they might cut you a deal if you go speak to a manager and tell them what you're trying to do. Spectricide made clovers grow faster and more. There you go. I don't know about that sometimes. Hit that like. Brandon says hit the like button. Thanks, Brandon. All right, Jason, mole crickets and centipede grass. Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Most of the time when I have insects, we're using like Talstar Pro in the lawn. So whether that was last year, we had tons of army worms, we have chinch bugs. So I'd have to check the label on the mole crickets and see if, I don't know, but you could check on Talstar Pro and see if mole crickets are on the label for that. It's a reasonably priced product. You put like 1 ounce in a gallon of water. But I've heard mole crickets can be tough. All right, weeds in rocks. So yeah, Jared, he's talking about killing weeds and making them not come back. I use, and you're not going to like the price when you look it up, but I use glyphosate and then mix it with SureGuard. So the SureGuard is what keeps it from coming back for a while, but it's expensive. So it's not that it goes a long way, so it's not that expensive for each for the distance you're covering. But like I said, it's like $600 or something for a bottle of it. Thank you for your time, Jason. Appreciate that. Chandler, is anyone interested in a Z-Spray Junior 36 with 60 hours in it, located in Alabama? I'm looking to get another Z-Spray LTS. I don't know, Chandler. I could. I've got a Z-Spray LTS, and I've actually thought about possibly getting a Z-Spray. Maybe I could talk to you about that, switching out and getting the Z-Spray. But I was kind of wanting a bigger one than the 36. Anyway, well, it's something to think about. But if anybody wants a Z-Spray Junior 36, Chandler's looking to switch over to the LTS. All right, based on your experience with new large property, if you had a chance to do it over again, what would you change? I'm looking to move away from cookie cutter subdivision and get some land. Okay, so maybe he's talking about me just at my house. We bought 5.5 acres a few years ago. We sold 1.5 acres. I now have 4 acres, with which maybe 3 of it is turf grass. It's been a great experience for me. I think as far as what would I change, I don't know if you're talking about just the land or whatever. We love where I live. I love, it's flat. As far as the grass, it was a huge project. We had to clear the land, pay somebody to clear the land with a big machine. Hauling it off was expensive. I couldn't burn it in my area. And then plugging the grass, I would do that differently. I bought plugs, try to do it in the summer with really no way to water it. I would probably spend a little more time trying to get it level on the front end instead of after the fact. And I would plug it in the spring and just, or if I was going to do it in the summer, maybe consider seeding. I didn't want to seed because I didn't really have a way to water it again. So I put out some plugs like in the middle of the summer, but that was probably a mistake. But anyway, I did Bermuda and it looks great now. My property's looking pretty good. I think give me a few more months, I think it's going to be looking great. So I don't know. I'm not a cookie cutter subdivision kind of guy, and I really love being on having a little bit of land. Curtis King, Bifen, or imidacloprid are good options. So bifenthrin was what I was. Talstar, I'm pretty sure is bifenthrin. So that was for mole crickets. Appreciate that. What size do you go over your minimum for a mow? I would just say depends on where it is. I mean, to me, some of my most profitable lawns are the smallest ones that are minimum price. So if they're in all the same neighborhood. Now, if you got to drive to go do a minimum yard, then you need to go charge more. So, I mean, for me on weed control and fertilization, it's kind of like 2,000 square feet and under is my minimum. So if it's over 2,000 square feet, then I'm going to charge more. 2,000 square feet is like a tiny little garden home with next to nothing for a yard. All right, is methylfuron best for killing henbit? I don't know about best. It's going to be slow, has to be watered in, and there's going to be a lot of products that can kill henbit. I would imagine that would be one of them, but it's I don't know about it's cheap and it's slow, but it kills a lot of weeds. So if you're looking for cheap, that's an option. But there's a lot of products that most likely knock out henbit. Do you use tenacity? Now, we don't really use Tenacity in the South much. I know that's an extremely popular product for cool season grasses. Thanks, Brett from Michigan. I start this week. Us cool season lawns need to stick together. Yeah, Gary, I feel the same way when I'm on when I'm in these Facebook groups and there's a bunch of cool season people, and I finally somebody asked a question about Bermuda grass, and I feel like I'll have something to offer, because I feel like it's way outnumbered. So that's probably the way you feel on my channel, because we talk mostly about warm season grasses. But that's why I love that you got somebody that can help pitch in and help who knows who's closer to your area. So I appreciate you guys helping each other out. All right, Brian's in Margaret, Alabama. She's right down the road from me. Bermuda grass got prodiamine down mid-March, probably late, but a lot of clumpy, grassy weeds, possibly clumping fescue with a Celsius Certainty combo. Take it out. I believe it will. I actually mixed up some Celsius Certainty today for me, because that's kind of like my go-to if I just need to have one combo that I can pretty much spray on anything, and it'll just about get it all. So it's not perfect, but yeah, that would be great. You could probably get by with maybe just a Certainty if it's just a bunch of fescue, but mixing them together probably would make it more effective. Mid-March, you're going to be close on the prodiamine. Next year, how about let's go for mid-February or January, but you might be all right. We'll see. I don't remember what mid-March, what the weather was like. Definitely in an aggressive growth stage, but it seems about the same for me. I've taken on probably 30 customers this year. Next year, I'll be more selective than that. I'm at 150. Okay. Well, yeah, I said I've picked up probably 30 as well, but being pretty selective. Is breathing in gas bad for you? I would think that's probably not the best. Give me a holler if you're interested in maybe working something out. All right, Chandler, let me think about it. I gotta see what I'm gonna do here. Best product for a crabgrass in Zoysia, as a pre-emergent, we go with prodiamine before it germinates. It's cheap and effective. Post-emergent, you're looking for quinclor, actually something like Solitaire, or I'm using Cue Ball now, or Drive Accelerate, something like that. Can you kill Bermuda long term or just suppress it? I think you can kill it. It's hard. I mean, I try to kill my whole yard. When I redid my whole yard, which somebody's asking a while ago about living on acreage and stuff, I sprayed my whole yard, I think, twice with glyphosate, trying to kill off everything, including some common Bermuda, so I could plug it with hybrid Bermuda. There's still common Bermuda in my yard. It's tough to kill. But I don't think it's impossible, but it is tough. I think you can get rid of a lot of it. So here we go. How do you kill weeds for the Hippie organic customers? I did some videos. I did one the other day for, what was it? Oh, the whole dish soap and vinegar and salt, and that kills. But you can kill weeds with vinegar. Yeah, it burns your grass and everything. I mean, I'm not saying get out there and put vinegar all over your yard, but he's just asking me, how do you kill weeds for the Hippie people? Acid mixed with 20% higher organic weeds, maybe hypochloric acid too. So, yeah, I mean, it definitely works. It's actually crazy. I did a video the other day where I poured vinegar on some lawn on a gigantic weed at my house. The weed was, I put a basketball beside it and took a picture because the weed was as big as a basketball. I'm telling you, 24 hours, that weed looked like it was dead. Somebody commented on the video, said, I don't think you killed the root. I looked at it the other day. I said, that you kill the root or don't kill the root, that thing's dead. I mean, it's brown as can be. I don't think it's coming back at all. But you burning your grass and all kind of stuff by doing that. I just did it for that. So ammonia. So yeah, vinegar, all that stuff definitely kills stuff. But if you're going to do that on your lawn, you're going to have brown spots all over the place. All right. Always assumed a true organic program, they just have to live with weeds. I'll try vinegar. Yeah, I don't know what's out there that's like truly organic lawn care products. A lot of them, there's a company around here that kind of advertises mostly organic, but I mean, I could say that about my program. I mean, when I mix herbicides in my tank, it's less than 1% herbicide. I mean, should I say it's 99% organic because it's 99% water? So I think sometimes people just do some marketing. I can make them brown in 20 minutes with 30%. Yeah, it works super fast. If you put vinegar on top of a weed, it turns it brown crazy fast. All right, we are at the end of the questions. If you guys got some more, go ahead. We still got about 15 minutes on my scheduled time here, but we don't have to go that long if you guys are out of questions. Run through my schedule. What I'm doing is about, well, a couple things. If you're joining the show, I've got a little bit of break in my schedule so I started a second YouTube channel. It's called Fix a Lawn, Fix-A-Lawn, doing all these renovations, mowing tall grass. I'm thinking about finding some nasty weedy yards and spraying them and try to renovate them, get them looking good again. So going to be doing some of that. I'm May 1st going back out, or May 2nd, whatever the calendar falls on. Get out and start spraying Spectacle again on my Bermuda Zoysia lawns at 6 ounces per acre. And then after that, I'll go back and fertilize them again. I've already fertilized them with a slow release fertilizer back in March. So I'm going to try that. This will be my first year trying that and trying, hopefully going to make a big difference in the doveweed and chamber bitter. I don't know what weeds you guys deal with where you're at, spurge, a lot of kalingas, things like that. Hopefully it's going to help out where there's a lot less spot treating the rest of the year. So that's what we're going to try this year. Alan says, how's your lawn renovation coming along? It's coming pretty good. Let's see, this will be year 3, I guess. Last year we were out of our house most of the year because we did a renovation on the house. So I wasn't living here. But my backyard is mostly filled in. I've got about 2 acres in the back, and it looks like basically a football field. Not quite as level as one. There's still some bare spots, but it's mostly solid Bermuda. My son gets out there and plays soccer. Immediately behind my house, again, we renovated last year. It was a gravel driveway, so I had brought topsoil in, try to get a skid steer, level it out. Just about a month or 2 ago, we just put some random Bermuda sod squares out there, just threw them out there in the mud. And so I'm waiting on it to get hot where all that can fill in. I keep telling my wife, I said, it's going to look good this summer. Just give it some time. It's going to spread and fill in. So once I get that done, and I really think late this summer, it's going to be close to where I want it to be. And maybe this year, maybe next year, I'm going to probably get some topsoil and sand and start trying to level it out in some area. I got 4 acres, so it's not all going to be perfectly level, but there's some areas where I want to smooth it out and make it really nice. Thought about even having like a little putting green area in my yard, but not sure we're going to do that or not. What would you do if you weren't in the lawn business? I think, well, I mean, if I was younger, I thought about joining the military, but I don't know if that would have worked out good. I don't know. I think I would probably try to be self-employed in some other kind of way and probably some other kind of service business. Now that I do a service business, when I look at retail businesses and restaurant businesses and businesses that you have to deal with the public a lot, I don't know. We deal with the public some in lawn care, but it's not like other businesses do. My in-laws are in the wedding business, so they deal with brides and brides mamas and all that. And I tell you, that's not for me. So I would probably be doing something similar that was service related where I could just go focus on the work I like. I don't mind working. I don't mind. And I just feel like I understand service business where I don't understand the other businesses as well. So, and even doing like YouTube, like I like doing YouTube for the most part, but I don't want to do it all the time. I like today, I had a little break in my schedule. I had a customer call me, had some weeds popping. So I got out there and started spraying the weeds. I was like, you know what? I kind of like this. I don't want to just be making videos all the time. Came back tomorrow. I've got to do some mowing and stuff at a friend's house, and came back, started getting my lawn equipment ready, started mixing up some herbicides that needed for coming up for soon. I put some Celsius and Certainty in the tank. Somebody's asked about that. I refilled my glyphosate sprayer. I've got to go spray a gravel path tomorrow with that. just things like that. And I just enjoy being out there doing something, being active. And so anyway, let's see. Jason, thanks for time to answer questions. No problem. Dallas grass program in Bermuda. What I do for Dallas grass is in Bermuda, MSMA, it will kill it in the summertime. You got to take multiple applications when it's hot. It's just not legal. So don't, if you do that, it's illegal unless you live on a golf course or a right away or something like that. The other way that we do it now, like you can do Tribute Total or Celsius Uncertainty combo or Manuscript is another product, any of those, and start bombing it in the fall. So like hit it in October, again in November, and then when it goes dormant, let's say January or December, maybe you can spray it with glyphosate. So if I got a yard that's just covered in Dallas grass, I'll spray 32 ounces per acre of glyphosate on the whole yard. But if it's just a little bit, I just go through there and start spot treating it, preferably on a warm day when the Dallas has a little bit of life to it, but when the Bermuda is mostly dormant. And I try to really cover the whole Dallas grass plant without getting it much on the Bermuda. Like I found if you just spray right in the middle of the Dallas grass, you'll make a dead spot in the middle of the Dallas grass, but the outer parts will still be green and the plant will survive and it'll come back and live. So, and again, you can do any or all of these, but if you want to not use glyphosate, you could just bomb it with Tribute Total in October, November, and again in March or April. Okay, methylated seed oil also helps for your surfactant. Or you can use Celsius Uncertainty. Do it October, November, again in March or April. Or if you want to just say, I'm going to do that October, November, spray it with glyphosate in the winter, and then if it survives all that, hit it again in March or April. So you can get rid of it. It's just a pain. I don't like taking on yards that are full of Dallas grass, but it's got a little bit. To me, it's not that big a deal. Do you use Wilbur Ellis products? No, I'm not familiar with those. Sorry. I have 2 customers that are slow payers that have money. Should I fire them 2 out of 65? I would just tell them, hey, instead of firing them, what I try to do is just make them put a credit card on file or make them prepay. You just say, hey, I really try to provide outstanding service for my customer, and I don't like trying to get the money into. You might can think of a better way to word it, but for your convenience, say something like that. For your convenience, would you mind putting a credit card on file or prepaying so we don't have to worry about texting you to remind you? And if they don't want to do that, then I probably would move on because it becomes just a pain over a while. And if you only have a 2 out of 65, that's pretty great. Do you spray liquid iron and humic acid, or is that a gimmick? So what my advisor said, James Barley, he's on here sometimes. I'm in near Birmingham, Alabama. They call the Iron City. When Alabama and Auburn play football, they call it the Iron Bowl. He's like, do you think you need iron in the Iron City? There's a town down the road called Irondale. So he says our soil has, plenty of iron in it. It's not needed in our area. The humic acid I know a little bit about, and some of the products I think even the lime I use has humic acid in it. So yeah, some of those I don't understand it, but the idea is some of these micronutrients like the humic acid can make the plant healthier, where it can then also utilize the macronutrients like the nitrogen. I think that's my understanding. So I don't think it's a gimmick. I don't think either one of those are a gimmick. But it is. Don't get me wrong. I think there's some things that they have minimum effect on the lawn that somebody just tries to sell you, but I don't think that those are a gimmick. I think they can have some benefits to the lawn. Have you heard of Green Care for Troops? It's basically a volunteer-based program to provide free lawn care for deployed military members. I have heard of that, and I've heard good things about it. And I've met some people. I went to the GIE Plus Expo, which I know they call it something else, but I went to that in 1 year and visited their booth and talked to those people, and it seemed like a very good program. Just had my soil test done. Results show a low pH, 4.8, low N and P. Have noticed yellow tips on my St. Augustine. Do you know if that was from the acidic soil or maybe low pH? Any clues? Well, acidic soil and low pH. Oh, low phosphorus. I'm sorry. Not sure on that, but regardless, you could address the issues there. You could put some lime out and fertilize. If you've got St. Augustine grass, I'm assuming you live a little more coastal. I don't know if you're Florida or Texas or on the coast in Georgia or South Carolina, somewhere like that. But you could go ahead and fertilize and put some of those nutrients back in the lawn as well as lime. And I would think you would see some improvement fairly quickly. So I'm not sure which one's causing it, but I would just address them all, see if you can get it fixed. Do you have irrigation? I don't have irrigation. That's one reason I went with Bermuda grass mostly on my yard. One, to spread very quickly to cover several acres. Two, it's basically drought. It's drought tolerant as just about as a cactus almost. I mean, not really, but we had an epic drought about 5 years ago. It's very hard to kill Bermuda grass. So I want to get started, but all I can do is mow and barely edge. What do you recommend? I think you got to practice a little bit. And maybe if you can't mow and barely edge, maybe you think, well, should I do the mowing or should I do something else? Maybe you might become the mulch installer guy around, or trimming hedges or pine straw or landscaping and stuff like that. You may find something else you enjoy more that you can carve yourself out a little niche doing that. So, but you can practice. Edging is not hard. Mowing is not hard. I mean, I think you can get better. Most people, it just takes a little bit of practice, not super hard. What's the best way to get into spraying yards like you do? What training license you have to have? Live in North Carolina, close to Charlotte. You'll have to check with the Department of Agriculture in your state and see what it takes to get licensed in North Carolina. For us in Alabama, they'll send you a study guide called Department of Agriculture. Our test is called a OTPS. That's my license, Ornamental Turf and Pest Supervisor or something like that. They'll send me that, and you go take the test, you pass it, and then there's continuing education classes we take to keep our points up there, keep our license active. And so it's probably something similar, but I know some states have stricter requirements. So you need to check with that and figure out how to get certified, and just figure out how to get the training you need. So in your area, it's Charlotte, you're probably in a transition zone, going to have some warm season grasses, some cool season grasses. So finding somebody who can mentor you, help you put together a program for your area. Learning how to spray and all that's not super complicated, but just getting a grasp on the products to use and the weed, learning the weed. It takes time. I tell people all the time, it's kind of like learning a language. You get immersed in the culture and it starts to make sense. You start hearing the terms and start to understand why you're doing it. But first, you just need somebody to tell you what to do and just do what they tell you. All right. Freeport says, hey, love your process. Thank you. Humic acids help convert the bioavailability. There you go. That sounds good to me. Mr. Maxwell says, roll tide to you. My wife's Auburn fan. We have other things in common. I missed the spring pre-emergent window. Should I put down dimension or wait until fall? Yeah, I'm assuming if you're saying roll tide, you're probably in Alabama. You can put down dimension, or if you got Bermuda grass. I'm not using dimension right now. What I'm doing is putting out the prodiamine and mixing it with quinclorac. So a product called Q-Ball. I put quinclorac and Q-Ball together and spray a yard. I'm hoping that if something hadn't germinated, the prodiamine will get it. If it has germinated, the crabgrass, then the quinclorac can get it. So, and then I put metsulfuron in there, triplet in there. I mean, I'm spraying out money like crazy, but I'm trying to get these ugly yards cleaned up. And that's just for new customers. I don't do that for everything. Do you run your tank completely empty before you refill the tank with the same price? No, I do not. So I just, the way that works is, let's say I'm filling up a 300-gallon tank. I've got 50 gallons left at the end of the day. Then that 50 gallons is already mixed. So I'm going to go ahead and fill it up to 300 again. But I'm only adding 250 gallons worth of chemical because 50 of it's already mixed. And then, get it nice and agitated. And that's how that typically works. So good question. Motown Hustler. First year turn mower I had was a Hustler Mini Z. I think it was a 2003 model. I had like 200 hours on or something when I bought it. It was a 44-inch with a 19 horsepower Kawasaki, and it was great. And I think after a while, I think it was leaking oil or something. I didn't put oil in. I think I burned the motor up, and that was terrible. So he's in the Lake Martin area, so that's a couple hours away from me. I'm talking about spring pre-emergent. Yeah, I mean, you're definitely late on your pre-emergent, but you could go with Dimension or, and what kind of grass you have. If you had Zoysia or Centipede or St. Augustine, you're probably not going to get just killed with crabgrass. If it's a Bermuda lawn, you probably are going to get killed with crabgrass, especially if it's a yard that hadn't been treated in the past. So, you could just wait and see what kind of crabgrass problems you have, and then try to hit it with a post-emergent. I can stay on here for a few more minutes. If people have questions, go ahead and ask. I don't have my family went to soccer practice tonight, and they will be home probably in 15 minutes. So I'm happy to hang out for a little while longer. What's a good herbicide for bent grass and Bahia grass that is creeping into Bermuda? Bahia, we use the metsulfuron, so it's real cheap, and a 1/4 ounce per acre will definitely suppress it and help it not put up a seed head and things like that. The bent grass, I'm going to assume that a lot of the same products that will kill like POA would get rid of that. I don't know. You have to check the label, but products like Revolver, products like Certainty, products like Tribute Total, the products that maybe even Katana, you could check into some of those, see if bent grass if it's supposed to get rid of bent grass. A lot of those are probably not labeled for bent grass. So whether or not it's going to kill it or just suppress it, I'm not sure. Good question there. All right, any more questions? We got a break in the action. Got a little bit more time here. If you guys have any more questions, if you don't, that's fine as well. Certainly enjoyed the conversation today. Yeah, like I said, people are out. Let's see. I'm assuming you make more spraying yards rather than mowing. Which pays the best, spraying or mowing? Yeah, I mean, for me, if you're going to be like small time solo person, the spraying typically does better. I mean, per day. I can't say it's equal for every situation, but there's no way I could go mow lawns, and I say no way, almost no way that I can mow lawns and want to do spray. I mean, the spraying, like I said, you got to have a lot of customers. I could probably handle 500 lawns by myself spraying. Like I've got like 300 or something right now, and I mean, I got so much time off, it's crazy. But that's because I really tightened up my route, got a lot of really small lawns. So I'm flying through 300 yards in like 3 weeks or just over 3 weeks. But I do that somewhat on purpose to have time to do YouTube and things like that. And I'm taking on customers. I'm just being real selective on which ones I take on. So that's kind of do you make more money per day out there? Most likely, yes. But it can take a while to get 300, 400, 500 customers. So you got to, kind of weigh that. Where a mowing, you might have 50 customers and have to be busy full time. But the big advantage for me on the spraying, at least in our area, is year round, and that helps a lot. What steps do you take when you look at a customer's yard in mid-April and they have 70% weeds and they want all weeds gone and grass, turf type, tall fescue planted? Well, again, this would need somebody. I need my Chicago guy, another guy from Michigan, to chime in here and see what. I don't know if, and don't do this, okay, without talking to somebody who knows what they're talking about with this. But, sometimes I see these people with cool season grass, they go in there and they just kill the whole yard and reseed it. And 3 weeks later, it looks like a beautiful yard. We can't really pull that off here in the South. So don't do that unless somebody else tells you it's a good idea. But that might be what they do. But if there's 70% weeds, you might go in there and find the herbicide that'll knock out the majority of weeds. And again, I don't know, people talk about tenacity. I'm not familiar enough with your cool season herbicides to know what's going to kill all those weeds and what weeds you have and all that. But it may be a deal where, because we're still in spring, you can kill the weeds with the post-emergent, and still, if you hadn't put down pre-emergent, still go ahead and overseed and start filling in where all those weeds was, because you're talking about 70% weeds. You got to kill them, and then maybe you can seed the lawn now. So if somebody else can chime in to help the lawn care monster, that'd be awesome. I'm shopping for good reasonably priced leaf blower. Any recommendations? I bought the one that I love recently, and it's kind of the mid-size. I like the Red Max blowers personally, so I got the Red Max EBZ 5150. So if you want one bigger than that, they got the 6500. If you want bigger than that, they got the 7500. If you want bigger than that, they got the 8500. Depends on if you do a bunch of leaf cleanup stuff. If you're just blowing clippings off the driveway, I like that 5150. It's just a mid-size. It's fine. And it's like, everything's gone up, but it was $300 something. I don't know. But I like Red Max personally, but I know there's people say Echo and Steel and Shindao and all that, but I've been using the Red Max for about 15 years, and they've never really given me a reason to look into other options. What are some of the pros and cons of each? How long will it take to build my business up? I guess he's talking about mowing versus spraying. I think let me make sure I'm talking to the right guy here. Yeah, he's spraying versus mowing. So, mowing, a lot of times somebody can fill up their schedule in the first year. If you go there and get relationships and people that can send you business and get 50 yards, and you're busy all the time. In the second year, you hire somebody and all that. It took me 3 years to get my schedule full spraying. And so I was mowing and spraying, just trying to make a living. And then as I filled up my spraying schedule, I dropped off the mowing. So, depends on what kind of area you're in, how great of a marketer you are, what the demand is in your area. Frankie says, I live in Southern California, St. Augustine grass. I have some brown bear patches. I use fungicide. Should I fill in with dirt and sand? One thing you can do, Frankie, is you can look down in the brown bear patches and see, is it totally brown and dead, or is there some green tissue? Even on, let's say the leaf is brown, but you get down to the very base of it and there's green tissue. And if I saw some green tissue, then that gives me hope that there's still alive, the roots are still alive, and that it's going to start bouncing back. So would you use dirt and sand? If I was going to use anything like that, it would be like very thin layer of some sort of topsoil, just something loose. But I'm not sure I would do anything like that until it started. Make sure that it's well, I guess if it's totally dead, you could do that, and hopefully it's filling from the sides, or you could again get some plugs. I talked about this thing I got called a Pro Plugger, and you pull plugs out and put it in the dead area and let it spread that way. But again, first thing I would do is look in the brown spot, see if there's any green tissue, and that would give you hope that, hey, it's going to bounce back. It's just going to take a little bit of time. So in that case, I probably wouldn't do anything. I wouldn't go there and spray a bunch of herbicide on it, just trying to let it recover. And then, you could probably use a little bit of loose soil. You give it something loose to spread into if you wanted to, but don't just bury it and just make it even more challenging for it to recover. Tune in late. Sorry, did you use trying SureGuard as a preem this year? I'm using SureGuard in the beds and stuff, but I know it's labeled for dormant Bermuda. I haven't used it on that. It's kind of expensive product, so I'm just using it on my flower beds mixed with glyphosate and on like gravel driveways and stuff like that. And so far, the results have been great, but I haven't sprayed it on the lawn. Was it worth doing an overseed after killing the weeds and risk the summer heat killing the new grass, or do a soil test and get the dirt right for a fall seeding? Well, again, my understanding is you've got to get the clock's ticking on you getting the grass healthy enough and mature enough to be able to survive the summer. So, but I don't know if you got time to do that or not, because I don't know how hot it's going to get where you live. Will it survive or not? But and it's a little bit of a people question here. How do you deal with this customer? Sounds like the customer wants it looking great, so I think there's going to be some communication need to happen where you say, listen, we're going to try to kill your weeds by spraying this product, but you got to have a lot of bare areas because your lawn's 70% weeds. So we can do one of two things. We can put some grass seed down. It's going to cost you this much, but I can't guarantee it's going to survive summer because we're late getting the grass seed out, and it's going to get hot, and the grass is not going to be mature. So just letting you know that some of it may survive, some of it may not do great. But if it doesn't, we can put more seed out in the fall. Or you could ask him and say, or would you rather us just kind of work on the soil and get it right so that we can seed in the fall and just kind of have a thin yard? So I would talk about that with the customer and explain to them the pros and cons of each. And again, there's no guarantees. If you're going to put out now, I can't guarantee you it's going to survive the summer because it's going to get beat up by the heat. Good evening, Jason. I was wondering, is it best to better to soil myself, or should I have someone come in and sort that out? All right, I'm not sure. You have to clarify your question there. Come in and sort that out. You may have to reword that. I would like to see you and Alan hang the lawn care, but do something together. Any plans on that? I've had Alan. I like Alan a lot, and I've been down and visited him in his area near Tampa. He's been on my channel once or twice, and Alan's a great guy, many talented person, very generous guy, and knows a lot about lawn care and a lot of things. So Alan's spoken when I had the Lawn Care Life conference. I've done that 3 times. Alan's been to the last 2 and keeps telling me if I have another one, he wants to come. So, and of course, I would love to have him as well. Nothing but good things to say about Alan, and maybe I could get him on here sometime. What do you use to kill wild violet and centipede? Wild violet, so blindside can have some effect on it, but you got to be careful spraying that on centipede. Like when it's in transition, you'll probably turn it yellow. And quinclorac, like we use that to kill it as well, but also got to be careful on that with centipede. So check the label on these products. And then anyway, it can be a little bit tough, but the blindside or the quinclorac, sometimes label for centipede, but I know I've used it trying to kill some crabgrass in the summer, and it looks like it burn a hole straight through the centipede. I mean, just like I've sprayed Roundup almost. So you might have to be a little careful with that as well. Shane's, I know you use Harold's, but for the average homeowner, is Scott's or big box store fertilizers okay? Well, I mean, you can, a lot of times you can go buy something at a local store. Like we have like Site One or somewhere like that around here. I think anybody could walk in there and buy, or you could, but yeah, I mean, putting some nutrients on the lawn, I don't know if all products are the same, but some people, like I have somebody talked to me the other day. Oh, this way. Well, I'll tell you a quick story. So I was spraying a yard, one of my customers. No, I was actually putting fertilizer out. So I was doing fertilizer last time. So this guy comes across. He lives in the house across from me. His Bermuda yard's on a slope, has an erosion issue. You can see basically rocks in the yard where it's terrible. And it wasn't a terrible slope, but it looked like it had plenty of sun. He's like, he's kind of one of them that just looked at you as the lawn guy and wants you to do whatever he said. That's my assumption. I maybe shouldn't assume that, but he's like, hey, why don't you give me a quote over there? And I was like, yeah, or he said something about, he was kind of like wanting me to give him a quote, but then he was sort of telling me he's like, hey, what about if I just go get me some triple 13 put on there? Will that fix that? I said, well, it may be better than nothing. I said, that's not what I'm using, but it might be better than using nothing at all. He's like, well, it's been like that for 4 years, Well, then it hit me. I was like, well, if he's been living there for 4 years and he hadn't done anything about it, he hadn't hired anything, he just want me to go over there and measure it and give him a quote. And then he starts talking like that. And I didn't give him a quote. I said, I'm not messing with this guy. He doesn't seem like he just wants to go. He wanted some information, but he sounded like he knew what he wanted to do before anything. But anyway, point being, yeah, you can put nutrients in the soil will help your grass. It doesn't have to be exactly what I'm using. But again, people that are like my guy that recommends my advisor, he's an agronomist. He understands soil. He understands plant nutrition much better than I do. So I lean on somebody like that can tell me what to do much better. Sorry to say, the first time catching you live, what's the most cost-effective way to add iron and potassium to a lawn? Oh, I have my family coming in, so I'm about to wrap up here. You can get iron is in liquid or granular. I'm not sure the price. We don't use iron a lot of times, but I don't think it's expensive. I see a lot of times you'll have fertilizer and that'll have potassium and iron in it. So I don't know if I see these. Anyway, you can get a blend that'll have a granular blend that'll have both potassium and iron in it. I think they sell them all the time. Not that expensive. I'm subscribed. Appreciate that, Adrian. All right, family, walk through the door. I'm going to wrap it up. 7:45. Enjoyed the conversation. You guys can check out my new channel, the Fix-A-Line. It's hard to start on YouTube, I figured out. So y'all, I could appreciate the support on that. Appreciate your support on this channel, as I want to keep it going like it has been for 11 years. And I keep talking about lawns and lawn business. So you guys are great. All right, Frankie, thank you. And we'll see you guys next time. Talk to you later.